Hello, Mike Grossner, Baker University head coach. Sit up here with a pretty heavy heart. We lost a tremendous person and a tremendous man and a tremendous mentor and a tremendous coach last night. But we're going to get through it. We're excited about our football team. This is Justin McCandless. He's a 4-year starter. That first year as a freshman, he played everything but center and did a great job learning the offense. And he was always that plug-in guy. He's had a knee injury, he's had a broken hand, you name it. I hate to jinx him, but he plays through the stuff. And the good thing about him is he came in as a guard last year. We had an injury right away, we had to move him out to tackle. Had another injury, had to play the other tackle position. So he's used to doing that for us, and you need those guys up front to do that. Luckily, up front, we have all 5 returning players. When I say players, we had some injuries and we moved guys around, but they all played. And then we had about 2 or 3 guys coming back that played quite a bit, and they'll help us out up front. So we feel good up front. Outside at the receiver position, we returned Clarence Clark, who was a freshman impact player for us. I really recruited him as a big-time kicker, and he didn't know it. But I was counting on him to kick for us, and then all of a sudden he gets to camp and he tells me he hadn't really kicked all summer. But he had been running routes and was ready to play receiver, and he was an impact receiver. He was first-team athlete in the conference, second-team receiver, led us in receiving with over 800 yards, but he also was the leading kicker in the nation. Scored the most points in the nation, hit 17 field goals, hit one from 59 to win a game, hit one in overtime from 53 to win a game. It just kept coming through. But the big challenge there was, here's your best skilled athlete making big plays. He's one of those guys that can run a little bit. And then you ask him to kick the extra point, which early on he missed a few. And then you ask him to kick off. And so we had to adapt to that and kind of give us the thumbs up if you can kick it, and if he was too excited, he'd miss the extra point. So we had a lot of 2-point plays ready. But then a young guy named Rolando Perez stepped in and made some big extra points for us, and then did some kickoffs for us. We recruited Abram Garcia out of Houston. He's a young man we recruited 2 years ago, but couldn't get him in school, and got him this spring. And he's a big 6'4", 230-pound kicker that could really launch it. So hopefully we have that. If Clarence is pulled up or cramping up or something going on, we have the answer at the kicker position. As a punter, we lose Brian Williams. Brian was a big asset for us. He was a 2-year starter for us. He was our holder. He was a leader as a punter, believe it or not. But he made some big kicks for us, and so we had a guy step up in the spring for us that we think he can get it done, Cody Martin, but we also brought in Jacob Tompkins from Kentucky, who was first-team All-State punter as well as a receiver. So that should be a good competition. So we'll see how our special teams work out. Back to the offense, we lost a 4-year starter in our quarterback, Jake Morris. He's a good player for us. Made a lot of plays through his career, was an offensive player of the year in the conference 1 year as a sophomore. But we feel good there. We feel Nick Mara is a young man that we played 1 game last year. He got to play against Mid-America, and then toward his second time to enter his ACL in a year and a half. So he got one half of football, and then he had to sit the rest of the year. But he was able to do some stuff this spring. And he showed enough promise that we feel like he's going to be a guy that can be the trigger guy for us. Behind him, we have Jake Heller, who got some time when Jake Morris was hurt last year, and Nick. And then, we have Adam Momanek, who was a freshman that played a little bit as well. So those guys have experience. And then we're going to bring in LaDayshawn Boost as a young man that I'm excited about out of California. He's a young man that's exciting with the ball in his hand, but he is a quarterback. We're going to put him there, see how he does, but he can play receiver for us as well. So we feel like up front, we have the guys to protect whoever's getting the football first. and then we'll go from there. And running back, we lost Dylan Baxter, a good player for us, and but we have 2 seniors coming back. Scott Meyer is a 5-year guy. He's had some injuries, but he has great experience in this conference. And then Cameron Tornaden is a young man that's a real good football player, be a senior running back, and he's a return guy for us, so we feel good there. Defensively, we have returned 8 starters. We lost 2 linebackers. I think that's the key. Who steps in at linebacker? Tucker Pauly was a young man from Grand Valley that did a nice job once he was inserted, playing all 3 positions. This year we're going to play him outside to replace Emerson Clark. And then, we've got to find out who inside is ready to play linebacker in this league, which is a tough assignment. We feel like we have the guys, the athletes, but we'll see how that competition heats up in fall ball and see how it turns out. But I think that's crucial to our defense. In the secondary, we returned both returning corners, 2-year stars, Mike Stevenson and Dwayne Sims, both good football players. Both going to be senior leaders for us, so we feel real good there. And then in safety, we've got Preston Randolph, who blew his ACL last year and is coming off that injury, so we hope he's ready. Preston Shanks, a guy that stepped in there last year for him and then dislocated his elbow, so we had to get to Josh Fairley, who was a starting corner the year before, and switch him over to the playoffs. So in all the injuries and all the substitutions, we feel like we've gained a lot of depth. Up front, we feel really good. Defensive end, Andre Jolly's back this year for his senior campaign. He was an All-American as a sophomore, led the nation in sacks. He is now back, healthy, ready to go. In his absence, Nick Becker and Adam Novak stepped up as freshmen and played lights out. Both got all conference honors. So Andre's stepping into a situation which I know he'll step up for that challenge, and then we've got hopefully 3 great football players in that position. Inside, we feel good. We got Myron Tipton coming back. He's our long snapper as well, but does a great job inside. And then Nick Shondell's a guy that's really come on from Bishop EH and played some good football for us. Josh Koch is a young man that has had 2 years of injury, has not stepped on the field. Believe it or not, he hurt himself warming up and conditioning the first year, and had a surgery and sat out. And then last year, he was working at a local market and then cut his hand with a box cutter and had to sit the whole year with that because there was a work comp situation that we couldn't play him even though he was healthy. So it's one of those situations now we feel like, okay, this young man's been in our program for 2 years, but he's truly a freshman on the field. We feel like he's a 280-pound kid that can really help us and really run. That's it in a nutshell. It's going to be an unbelievable year. Listening to these guys talk and the type of players they got coming back and the chemistry that's within this league. What a challenge! And then, the last thing I want to say is our schedule. We open up at Otto, which is unbelievable. Going over in that atmosphere, that rivalry that we got, it'll be a top 10, 12 program. And then we bring Sterling to our place the second week. Sterling was our first round opponent in the playoffs. And we got out of that one with a 10-7 win. So that's how we start. Then we got to go down to Springfield and play Evangel at 3rd place. And that's always a challenge. So, we're just going to 1 week at a time. And then when we get to October, we don't have a home game. Luckily, we get the privilege of playing in the Arrowhead Challenge against Benedictine, our rival. I've heard it and I love it. That's our feeling too, guys. I mean, that's the game of the year for us. And we get to do it in a big showcase. And we can't wait for that. But there's a lot to happen before October 11th comes along. But that is our designated home game for October. We are not home, and then we return home in November. So we got a scheduling challenge, which we'll be up to. We'll take it week to week and see how it ends up. Any questions?
I want to ask Justin. Last year, Baker won his first playoff game in 20 years. How much of that taste of postseason success whether you have to fight for more this year?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, getting to the playoffs last year and having some success was a big thing for our program, and we're looking forward to getting back there hopefully this year. And, you know, a lot of people think since we got there last year, we might be satisfied and not, you know, as hungry to get there this year. That's definitely not the case. We've all had a taste of it now, and we want more.
Question for Justin. How does the approach of your offensive line change with a new quarterback this season and without Dylan in the backfield?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we all know games are won in the offensive and defensive line. We feel good about all the guys coming back this year. And, you know, with Nick Mara stepping in, you know, we got to do our best to keep him upright. He's got to have a chance to make the plays. So that's all on us. And, I mean, we worked hard in the offseason, and we feel good about where we're at. We're ready to get going.